I know there's news emanating from south of the border about some of the other AEW, I guess you can call them talent. They're on the roster. And we're not sure what do we even know where this happened otherwise than the country? Do we know a specific? It was after a AAA match last night.
It was in Tijuana. It was TripleMania in Tijuana, I believe.
TripleMania in Tijuana. Was a donkey on the show.
Will you stop it? This is a big event. This is the biggest event for AAA every year. AAA.
Well, that's why I figured they'd bring in the donkey, the dancing bear, everything they could throw at them.
There are no donkeys currently involved with AAA.
But unfortunately...
that I know of.
Well, no, I'm not saying, I wasn't saying unfortunately about that. I'm saying unfortunately about the topic that we're about to discuss. Unfortunately, see, old Kenny and old Don Fallis, I guess they're not welcome on Collision because there's other people that are not welcome on Wednesday nights. So they're being kept so to have employment on Saturday night instead of being with the AEW crew doing the great Collision program. They were down in Tijuana riding the donkey over to the event that they had down there. I mean, I can't, it has to be some kind of dog and pony show because how else could what we are about to describe happen? Don Fallis was attacked not by a fucking heated fan, not by a mark, but by a goddamn random photographer in the middle of a press conference. That
and we have audio, however you want to play it.
Well, yes, but there are no fans. This is not during the show. This is after the show. They were apparently outside on a football field type of stadium thing. And now there's a bunch of people asking Kenny questions about his match that he had with Viking O. And they're all either shooting with their phones or they've got cameras. And it's like, you saw the tent where, you know, I guess maybe they had some Gatorade under the fucking tent. There's nobody in the stands. There's nobody there. It's the press conference, the media scrum, right? And they're on the sidelines of the football field. Have I described this visually appropriately enough for people to get the picture?
I don't know if it's a football field or a baseball field or a soccer field.
It's some kind of sporting stadium where they're on the sidelines of it, and it's after the show, and there's a bunch of, and these look like, you know, obviously everybody that's there is shooting it. It's not just random fans standing around. There's not that many people there. What do you think, 30 or 40?
The people that are standing around appear to have passes around their neck, so you would think they were cleared. Like you said, there are a few people with the media shooting on their phone, but that's not abnormal nowadays with the media. But there are also people with microphones and cameras. Everyone seems to be a part of this.
And then suddenly, old Don comes out and starts yelling at Kenny, as often happens in these media scrums, right? And they're going back and forth. And then who would take a shit comes and jumps on Kenny, and he's down on him, beating him up. And you see some guys that are mostly dressed in black that look like they would probably be some of the promotions people or whatever that is. They're starting to try to get the fucking heel off the baby face. And then they've got him kind of like, oh, come on now. It looks like everybody's with this fucking program, right? And then as they take a shit one way, and Kenny's selling over here on the field, on the ground, Don runs over to be the chicken shit heel manager and runs over and starts trying to give him the Jimmy Hart pitter pat fucking kicks. And suddenly some random guy that's got a camera that's taking pictures or whatever grabs Don from behind, and you see this going off camera because they're shooting the angle that they think is going on, right? They're not shooting. They don't know some guy's going to go into business for himself. And the fucking guy, the photographer, reaches around and grabs Don, and you can see there'd be a little struggle, and you see the photographer's leg go in between Don's leg. He's doing a leg trip on Don Callis, like he's goddamn a member of the Gracie family or something, and fucking takes him down to the ground with a whoop. And you hear Don's going, Conan, he's.
That's my favorite thing in the second part of because there's two different cuts of the video. It's like the Zapruder film. No one has the exact moment.
They got a couple of different angles when people noticed there was something going on, but nobody's got the unobstructed thing.
Conan!
And then when the other camera goes over to him, the guy's on top of Don. He still doesn't realize what he's done. And Don is going, are you fucking ribbon? What the fuck is going on here? And another guy comes over and tells the photographer, get off it. And the photographer gets up and just lets go and doesn't realize he's done anything wrong.
No one else seems to be bothered either.
No, because he's got a rear naked choke on fucking Callis on the ground. So apparently he hurt his fucking ankle and fucking whatever else when he took him down. And there's Don going, are you fucking ribbing me? We're doing an angle out here. This guy's not smart.
He wanted to get back into the business so bad. He has a giant scar on his head. Now he's getting attacked by photographers on soccer fields in Mexico.
And people on Twitter heard the initial news. The initial headline was attacked by fan, right?
Well, the original, let's go in order here. Brian Alvarez broke the news. At least that's where I saw it, and everyone else I've seen said that this is where the first report was. Here's the quote. Everything was an angle up to that point, but then a fan who was apparently upset about what Don had said to Kenny jumped Don from behind, ripped his suit, concussed his eardrum, and busted open his mouth while he was trying to choke out Don from behind. Don was screaming profanities at the fan. Callis's neck and ankle were both injured in the attack, and he's headed to San Diego for medical attention.
I'm not laughing at he's hurt, but I'm like, yes, he was screaming profanities, but it wasn't like, I'll fucking kill you, you motherfucker. It was like, are you fucking ribbing me? Get this motherfucker off me. Who the fuck, what the fuck kind of fucking dog and pony show is going on here? Because the guy wasn't trying to fight him. He was, he saw the other people, because that's what he leg tripped him, took him down, had him in a rear naked choke, and was restraining him. Like he was one of these people that go off on the subway, right?
That's right.
And because he saw other people doing it and thought he'd help. And I was telling you before we went on the air, there in Baltimore in 1986, at the Civic Center, there, the Baltimore Arena, we were working with the Rock and Roll Express. I was handcuffed at ringside to Jimmy Valiant, right? And we're having a match, and Bobby takes a bump out. There's a couple of people at ringside, but one we've never seen before and never saw again. I don't know whether he was a local newspaper photographer or maybe one of the... He looked like he was young enough he could be in his senior year of college. He was like 6'3", 6'4", and 275, but not...
Oh, wow.
Not a football player. No, fat, big, fat, corn-fed. Like the football coach would have looked at him coming down the hall and then seen that he was a fat piece of shit and, no. But he was big. And he's there at ringside, and Bobby takes a bump through Bobby, the nicest guy in the world of all people, takes a bump through the ropes, and he sees the guy at the last minute, and he tries to catch himself. But he and Regan, they're going to do something. And as he lands, he staggers back and bumps the guy, but he also says, get the fuck out of the way. Like, hey, watch out. You're going to get hurt. We're going to do something. And the guy, instead of getting out of the way, stood his ground and shoved Bobby in front of 10,000 people in a fucking... The World Tag Team Champion just got shoved by the goddamn fat fucking newspaper photographer, right? And Bobby goes back up and he's trying to work with him one more time, but he shoves him double. He said, I said, fuck off out of here, right? Trying to smarten him up, give him the issue or the Iggy, right? And the guy fucking shoved him back. Hot, right? Putting his camera to hot, shoved him back, and here we go. Bobby started fucking throwing right hands, and suddenly the cops who had been sitting there at ringside, obviously, didn't react with the shove because, it could be guys doing shit at ringside. When they saw Bobby laying in on this big ass, who was throwing back, by the way, this big fat fuck, they immediately grabbed this fucking guy and I don't know what his fucking issue was, but he was not going to move, not going to get out of the way, and he was going to stand his fucking ground. But sometimes people ain't fucking smart. I don't know, but that, again, Don's got a great lawsuit, if he'd like to
in
pursue
Mexico.
it.
Yeah.
Well, oh yeah. Well, Tijuana is in Mexico, isn't it? It's right down from San Juan Capistrano.
I don't know about that, but
or is it Don Juan Capistrano?
I don't know about that.
But anyway, so that's what happened. So this fucking knucklehead thought that he'd join into pulling these guys apart because they were really going to have a fight there.
Conan!
You fucking ribbon? Get this fucking guy off of me. What the fuck?
Did you listen to Omega's answers to the questions? Because that's how it started.
I started for about 30 seconds and
Do you want to hear any audio, I guess? I'll hear on the show is the question.
No, only the audio of the guy on Don, because the Kenny audio was, my God, is a fucking substitute for propofol. He speaks that way to everybody, apparently.
All right, let me go to, because there was a cut, and here's where Takeshita was on top of Kenny hitting him. So you'll hear Callis, because he's just talking shit like a manager in the background. So you'll hear him, and then there's a second version, which is a little louder. That's where you can hear the Conan! But hold on, here we go.
Shut up! Get the no! What Conan?
Coughing.
Conan!
And now Callis is being pulled away by a fan.
Yeah.
Or by the photographer.
Kenny, okay?
What the fuck is going on here? Jesus.
Get off me! Hey!
And this Omega's still doing the angle.
Yeah, no, Omega was the one.
Get up!
Oh, wait, let me
Go ahead.
let me lower
What?
that. That's version 2.
Well, just real quick. Omega was the one going, get off of me, but you could hear Don was going, Conan, and he said, Jesus Christ. The first thing I think was, no. When the guy grabbed him, he realized he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He was, no. And then Conan, but he was the one going, Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
He's in the middle of this, all of a sudden he's dragged out and choked out.
What the fuck?
All right, remember when AEW security like choked out, or they dragged down Frankie Kazarian? They didn't know he was going to be a part of something. They just some guy in a hood, and they like beat the crap out of him. But here's the second version, a little louder.
Hey, get the no! What Conan? Hey! Conan! No. Hey, yeah.
That's Conan.
Oh, and there goes the end of that.
Yeah, that Conan was, yeah.
Well, I don't know if that was Conan encouraging
No, I think it was. No, it was. He was going, hey, let him go, that kind of thing.
Oh, I thought it was an encouraging, like, yeah, do it.
No. It was the other way. He was.
But the early reports were a fan attack, and clearly, because people were saying, like, this is an example. Look at how much heat he has. This is the greatest heel work.
Oh,
that's
good
really
God.
not what this was.
The fucking, the Glinda the Good Witch could get knifed in Mexico. That's not a high bar to begin with, but there wasn't even any real fans there. Just a couple of marks, apparently.
With cameras around their necks.
Oh, my God.
Hey, what was the story? Because I can't remember. I think it's someone, but now I don't want to say it because I may be wrong. Didn't you get into a tug of war with a ring announcer that wasn't smart to anything one night?
Oh, the first time, what was his name? The Greensboro ring announcer,
Dr. Tom Miller.
Tom Miller. He didn't know that I was supposed to take the microphone and introduce my guys, because and again, for the younger listeners, there could be entire house show cards in the old days where a wrestler would never touch the microphone. And most of the time, the announcer was told never to let the microphone go unless you're told to. Well, nobody had told him. I mean, I was doing it every night in house shows, TV, whatever, and I go to get the microphone and he ain't going to give it to me. And I'm fucking tugging back and forth, and I said, bro, I got to do this, and I got it. And and there was sometimes also it would depend. That's not the only time it's happened, but usually it would be a local announcer that may not even be smart. Maybe somebody from the fucking VFW that's the local sponsor. and they don't want to give you the microphone. Well, I'm going to get it anyway, motherfucker. And, so every once in a while that would happen when you had just a wide variety of local people around the periphery of the ring.
Let me ask you this, because this does say something about where we are today and what is heat, what is real heat, what are fans smiling while booing. There are different things. What happened to Don Callis here, if we're being honest, based on what we see with AEW and their audience and these shows, he's had very little reason to have his guard up, even though he's a heel manager.
Oh, yeah, you don't have your guard up anymore. I wouldn't have actually, if I was in the country of Mexico, I wouldn't have had that many people behind me that they did there. But,
Well, that's going to be my question. And again, I know you can't compare you in Mid-South in 84 to Don Callis now. It's a different animal. The world's different. The wrestling world's different. But if you're a heel in a situation like this where it's a press event, even then, do you have your guard down? Or should you even then be a little, one of these guys may take this too seriously?
Well, no, see, that's the thing is that, and you got to recognize your venue. And I'm not just saying just because it was in Mexico. I've thought many times in some, you've seen some of the independent shows in the Northeast, where guys would be doing things out in the middle of the people. And,
yeah,
that was always questionable to me. And usually I was a babyface on Dennis Corluzzo's shows. But, anything in the ECW crowd, you would never know for sure. And now with the WWE event, there's security up the yin-yang, and with the exception of every once in a while, the weirdo that comes out and tackles somebody because they want to get on TV.
Oh, yeah, Rollins in Brooklyn, remember?
Yeah, but that's the thing is that if this was the territory days, a lot of the positions that people are in now where it rarely happens but does, and they get tackled or something happens, they wouldn't have been in those positions in those days to begin with, because you would have known at that point that there was an overwhelming odds-on probability something was going to happen. You couldn't go out into people. You couldn't be on an outdoor field. There weren't press events to begin with in those days. And, but the equivalent was like in the Sam Houston Coliseum, being up on that platform with Paul Bosch doing the live promos. You had 3 or 4 feet or 5 feet on the people so they couldn't get to you, but you had to get down the steps without them throwing shit at you and get back to the locker room, whatever. But everybody's let their guard down now because and even now a number of times I was managing at ringside, wasn't really looking around behind my back or whatever, whether I was a babyface or a heel, just because it doesn't happen anymore. But every once in a while something happens. But you were always on guard anytime you were in a public place in any type of performance in those days, because there was a high probability something was going to happen no matter where you were.
Should AEW sign the photographer? Mixed matches, Kenny and the photographer versus Callis and Takeshita.
I don't know. I think the photographer better retire undefeated. I have a feeling if Don finds out,
I don't know, he seemed like a big guy.
Well, no, if he finds out that the guy's connected with some company Don can sue, that would be a great opportunity.
Conan! Like he's trying to get him to pick up the phone upstairs. Conan!
What the fuck?